His mind's a void. It seems like I've got all his zombie takeout.
What's up? Welcome to episode 258 of Zombie Takeout,
Zombie takeout.
the B-movie and cult movie podcast. I'm Uncle John.
And I'm Scotto.
And without any further ado, let's just get straight to this week's movie, which is from 1984, Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. Of course, finishing up our Part 3 three-parter.
The third part of the three-part trilogy.
Yes, and thankfully I won't have to say that ever again.
Unless we do another one.
Of course, that brings us to the impromptu plot summary, sponsored by self-destruct sequences. Have you written yourself into a corner? Are you too lazy to think of an inventive way out? Then try a self-destruct sequence. It's worked every other time.
And also brought to you by Commodore 64s. You can use one to fly into space.
And create a lot of bad graphics.
Oh, yeah, the graphics were amazing for 1984. I think I saw them on my computer at home. All right, here. The great thing about these movies, probably the best thing, is just how they go from one to the other. And it's only, I think, 3,
Yeah,
4,
it's
5.
3 in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, that they just pick up. No, 2, 3, and 4. 5 is a little after. But yeah, 2, 3, and 4 just go right where the last one left off. They have the blasted ass Enterprise. They're still at Genesis, and they leave to head back home. And well, apparently Spock neglected to do a few things in his dying moments. He neglected to tell Kirk about his plan for resurrection. And then he hesitated until they actually got back to Earth to say, hey, why'd you leave me at Genesis?
Wait, what movie are you talking about?
We were talking about Star Trek 3.
Because 3 starts with the bird of prey. Spock isn't in most of this one.
Well, he's using, of course, McCoy as his mouthpiece.
Okay. But we had a massive outtake there, but I think we can leave that in, actually.
Right. He neglects when he's dying at the end of 2, when they show the recap of 2 again to see how he got there. He neglects to tell Kirk, hey, stick around, go to Vulcan with my body and McCoy, and everything's going to be cool. Don't worry about this. I mean, it's a long shot. Not many people are into this. But that would have been more realistic than if he knew if he had this planned out.
Right.
Instead of, well, of course, he wanted to know that the ship was in fact out of danger.
And we got to see DeForest Kelley play crazy, which is probably the best thing DeForest Kelley has ever done.
It's always the best when DeForest Kelley's crazy. The episode City on the Edge of Forever.
Yeah.
Murderers, assassins. Anyway, yes, meanwhile, there is Reverend Jim, for some reason, is piloting a Klingon bird of prey. He intercepts information about Genesis from the last movie, and of course, he crosses into Federation territory, which I'm not sure how that got smoothed over, and Kirk is the one in trouble later on in the series for doing what he did, but he violated some treaties there, and
he flat out says, take us to the Federation neutral zone.
Yes, just fuck the treaties. We're negotiating, but I'm worried about this weapon. I think an interesting choice in the film is that Kirk's son still does not see Genesis as a weapon.
No. Which is very realistic for a scientist, because they only see Actually, not just a scientist. I don't want to paint scientists that way, but for anybody who creates something, you only see the good.
But how many people in last movie and this movie have been like, we don't give a fuck if you've created a stable planet. We just want to fuck the old planet up.
True, because you see, the military is trying to use it as a weapon, and the Klingons are trying to use it as a weapon. He still
Right.
sees the potential for it to create life, until of course it starts destroying the planet.
Right. When Krug shows his officers the video about Genesis, one of them's like, "Wow, that'll be great. They can recreate the planet." He's like, "Yeah, get out of here." You, however, the other one who sees this as like, we're gonna fuck planets up, uh, and knows the potential, the true potential of it.
Mhm.
Then he invites him into his confidence more.
Which is Maltz. Was it Maltz? Malz?
I think so.
Yeah, played by the great John Larroquette.
I've seen this I don't know how many times, and I don't think I think I even knew he was in this, but did not realize that that was him.
I saw his name when I was looking at the plot summary, and specifically like kept an eye out for him. I was trying to find him. So the first,
Dan Fielding as a Klingon.
so like within the first 10 minutes, he shows up on the bridge. I think in the scene you just talked about, and I recognized him as soon as he spoke.
So, meanwhile, we have back on Earth. Kirk realizes the mistake he's made. Actually, Sarek visits him, and
Where the
and
fuck
they
is my son?
yeah, where's my son? What'd you do with him? Why'd you leave him there? Why don't you have his memories? So then they get to replay part 2 again, which
Hmm.
that they didn't need to do the replay of part 2 if they replayed part 2 in that scene too. It was
Way
just
too much previously on in this movie.
right. It was a bit redundant, and this movie does suffer from a lot of fat. And I'm not talking about James Doohan, but Kirk made that Shatner made that shot at him in one of the biographies. But anyway, so they, of course, are confronted with bureaucracy and the recurring theme in all 6 of these movies about them getting too old to do stuff.
Right.
They have all the doors slammed in their face. They then embark on a caper to steal the Enterprise and
Almost
go
literally had a door slammed in their face.
yes, and of course sabotage the shiny new ship, the Excelsior, so they can't be chased. And then he, of course, is in the right place at the right time to confront Krug and get everybody, and hilarity ensues.
Right. And retrieve Spock's body and yada yada.
Yeah.
Now, not only is there too much previously on, but they started in this little box with this kind of blue cast on it.
Yes.
It just seemed odd and kind of hard to watch.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Exactly.
Previously on Star Trek.
Yeah. That's exactly what the beginning of this movie was. It wasn't so much in the Sarek scene, because that was more of a just straight up flashback.
That would have been perfect if they had just had that, and you didn't see the same scenes in the beginning.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, they could have remembered, what was going on in that scene, and it wasn't that deep into it.
Right.
A much less clumsier way of just beginning with the end of the last film.
Yeah. Although one thing I will say is the interesting thing about these movies, and since we've been watching them, a couple months apart, it's nice to see how the CG is getting better.
Really? Because
the CG was dreadful in TMP and a little better last time, and it's getting watchable now. And I don't mean the little computer graphics on this Commodore 64, but like the spacescapes when you see the Enterprise going through the stars.
Yeah, that did get better.
That stuff is actually getting better. The stuff that's supposed to look realistic.
But I thought the animatronics were just terrible in this.
That was a little iffy. The little monster, the snake thing on Genesis was kind of bad.
Yeah, it was. It was very bad and unnecessary. And then
also unnecessary.
The dogs.
Well, yeah, the dog. The Salacious Crumb. Yeah.
Yeah.
ILM was involved in this movie, so as soon as I saw Krug's little pet dog, I thought of Salacious Crumb.
And the truth, it's a year after Jedi, so but they looked terrible.
Mm-hmm. Incidentally, a green bird of prey, is that something they do throughout the series, or am I just forgetting that, or is this
Uh,
just a one movie thing?
no, I think they do different green ships. I
Do
think
they?
the
Okay.
Romulans, the Romulans eventually had more green ships than the Klingons,
Okay.
if I'm remembering right.
I never remember. I don't remember any unusual colors for the ships. They were all just kind of gunmetal gray, from what I recall.
Yeah, but I think the Klingons had different colors.
Hmm. Oh, speaking of the dog, when he leaves the bridge, he tells one of his underlings to feed the dog, and there's this weird scene where they kind of hold on Lloyd a bit too long,
Yes,
and then they hold on the officer a bit too long. And I was expecting him to like feed the dog one of his fingers, but nothing happens. They just hold on this awkward shot of this supporting actor.
there were a couple scenes where I thought they held it too long. It was kind of like, really? I think there was something with like Spock and
The the only
Kirk.
the only other one that struck me that way was toward the end when they had everybody surrounding Kirk or Spock rather, but after the resurrection,
Yeah,
right
that
before
that
the
went
credits, that held a bit too long.
that definitely went too long too, of course. But at the end, it was just too. All right, we
Yeah,
did it.
right.
And really, there's like almost 15 minutes after. I mean, spoiler here.
Hmm.
Krug is killed.
Yeah.
There's 15 minutes of film after that.
Well, yeah, because they still have to resurrect Spock.
Right.
Now, of course, we have a new Saavik in this one. The character was played by Kirstie Alley in Khan, played by Robin Curtis this time around. Some sources say that she wasn't offered the option, and some say that she declined it.
What has she said all these
Well,
years?
that's what her claim is, that she declined it, but others connected to the movie say that she wasn't offered it.
That's weird.
I don't know why she would have declined it.
We could have had Night Court, Cheers, and
Yeah.
Taxi on the same screen.
Hmm.
Man, I think all that was missing would be some Barney Miller, and we would have had. I mean, that would have been it.
Hmm. Now, this is a Star Trek movie, so I feel okay nitpicking the science. So we have Genesis, this lush green world with all this plant life, but they said no, there shouldn't be any animals. Well, first off, they said no life forms. Plants are life forms.
Right.
But also, there's not supposed to be any animals. Okay, so whatever starts this chain reaction to create all of this plant life has the building blocks of life, the amino acids that turn into the proteins and yada
I
yada.
think they said not yet.
Okay,
Like,
that would make sense if it was a not yet.
I think that's what they said. I could be
Okay.
wrong, but that's what I thought. That they were like, wait a minute. I mean, it's not. It's supposed to just be the simple organisms now.
Mhm.
Still.
Yeah. If it was a not yet, that's okay. If it was not supposed to have fauna, that doesn't make sense. And Star Trek is the one that's supposed to be good with science.
Right.
Heisenberg compensator aside. At least they compensated for Heisenberg. At least they knew about Heisenberg. So at least I have to give them credit for that. Now, I will say flat out, I really enjoyed this movie.
Oh, really?
Which surprised me because the conventional wisdom is that the odd number Star Trek movies are bad. And of course, TMP is a joke, and I remember hating 5, so I was not expecting to like it. Really enjoyed it. I think largely because of the supporting cast and the story.
I think they had such a great cast here, but I kind of feel it got wasted. The script really just didn't do it. I mean, I think they could have done so much more with Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah, he was a bit underused.
Oh,
Larroquette, as I
definitely.
mentioned, was horribly underused. And some of the other Starfleet officers who gave some really great performances, but of course we have to focus on the Enterprise crew.
I mean, it was kind of like an afterthought. Well, we need a villain in this thing
Mm,
somehow. They need to be looking for Spock, but they can't get to him. What could be keeping them from
right.
getting to Spock?
Hmm. And he was basically Khan Part 2, admittedly.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Also, and this is something I really have to hold over some people's heads. I'm very involved in geek culture, and there's kind of an unspoken conflict between Star Wars fans and Star Trek fans. Star Trek ripped off Star Wars. I was unaware of this.
The Cantina scene.
There is a scene in this movie with Bones in a bar that almost directly rips off the Cantina scene. He's talking to this alien who very much reminds me of the Devonian, the guy who looked like the devil
Right.
in the
Who
Cantina,
talks like Yoda.
who talks like Yoda. I just, I love that they ripped off Star Wars. I have something to hold over the Trek fans now.
And the whole, instead of just, being cool about it, he's like blabbing,
Yeah.
wait, you want to go to Genesis?
Yeah.
That's illegal.
Even though a few scenes earlier, their superior officer flat out said Genesis is not just off limits, it's not to be spoken about. It's that off limits.
That was an interesting part that they were, well, let's clamp down on this. And really, what did not make sense about any of that was that it's one thing if Shatner or Kirk asks, get me the ship so I can go get my buddy. If Sarek asked, though, the ambassador from Vulcan,
that should do the job.
That should have been that should have had enough clout.
Yeah.
Especially if it was the two of them working together to get it done.
Oh, also it should be mentioned that this is the first time in the franchise that a cast member has directed. Nimoy directed this one.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
And he also came up with the idea for the design for the Bird of Prey.
Really?
There's a story about how he, in a meeting, actually stood up and put his arms out and demonstrated the way the wings hang. When he was talking to ILM, so they could
That's so
build
interesting. That we find out the last one, the Doohan invented Klingon.
Invented Klingon, and then Nimoy came up with
the Bird of Prey.
Yeah.
That's so unusual for like any sci-fi fantasy series for the actors to be so much of a part in the creative process.
Well, by this point, they weren't just the cast. They were into the movies. It was, they were as iconic to the series as anything.
That
and
is
as important
true.
to it. Oh, also, this caught me as interesting because it also references another movie we've talked about, actually, in our first episode. When Admiral Kirk toasts his officers and raises a glass to absent friends, in the Royal Navy, toasts were given by the officer in charge based on the day of the week. Absent friends was given on a Sunday. And that was also used in Rocky Horror.
Oh, really?
Remember to absent friends in the dinner scene?
Huh.
I didn't realize it had a military history.
If only we had Captain Tim Curry, huh?
That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, they could bring him into the Abrams movies, I guess.
I'm sure he's done a trek somewhere along the way.
Probably. I mean,
yeah.
We've got Lloyd in 5, and this is what I was slightly confused by because we were talking about this last week. I think it was off the air. And you mentioned Christopher Lloyd was in this one, and I was thinking he was in 5 because I had him confused with, I think it's Christopher Plummer.
Yeah.
Who plays a Klingon in 5, the classic, Shakespeare in the original Klingon bit.
I think that's 6.
6, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Undiscovered Country. There's that line about, Shakespeare in the original Klingon.
Right.
I think that was Christopher Plummer.
Yeah.
But I got a little confused because I couldn't think of any other big-name actors who'd played Klingons. Curry as a Klingon, maybe around the time he did Legend could have been fun.
Oh, definitely. Well, without the vocal modulator.
Well, yeah, just in the makeup without any other nonsense. Oh, one other science nitpick. As they're walking around Genesis, and they had earlier said that it has all of the different kinds of environments that Earth has. And they go into a snow biome, and I'm borrowing a term from Minecraft there.
Right.
The snow starts almost on a line. Like, it's not snowing, and they go a little further, and it's snowing. There's no gradual. You can almost see, like, where it starts as a wall.
But the planet's climate was completely in chaos.
Well, yes, but the snow shouldn't start that dramatically.
Like, the snow is also covering cactus.
Yeah.
like it was a desert, and then it started snowing over the desert.
Yeah.
Which was just like, they were throwing the craziest things out there that they could think of with the planet and its environment.
There still should have been a little more of a gradual work into the snow, I think.
Like a dusting to, yeah.
Just something a little more realistic. Also, ever since George Takei came out, I can't look at Sulu the same. Particularly the scene where they're trying to bust McCoy out.
Well, and that's the other thing with these. They're wearing the same clothes for all three movies.
Yeah.
The costuming does not get a chance to update. So they are stuck with 1982 collars and shit.
Yeah. So Kirk comes in to talk to Bones, who has been put in the brig. And then Sulu walks in and talks to the officer on guard. And I don't know. Maybe it's colored because I know Takai is gay, but it just seemed like he was about to proposition him.
But it's okay.
So they managed to bust out and steal the Enterprise, which I kind of liked the heist aspect of it.
It was a bit silly, but I mean, yeah.
It was fun.
It was fun. Which is kind of the whole reasoning behind most of these movies after Khan.
Yeah.
Was just that they're doing it for fun, especially 5 in particular.
But there's this bit where the docking bay doors, or as they called them, the space doors.
You did call them that, didn't they?
They were called space doors. I had to watch the scene a couple of times to make sure. They wouldn't open as the Enterprise was coming toward them. Did they honestly think anybody would believe that they wouldn't open in time?
It would have been a great movie. Bonk.
That would have been the Mel Brooks version. I'm surprised that wasn't in Spaceballs.
And then, like, Sarek standing back there, I'm like, let them go. Okay.
Yeah. And this leads to a chase between the Enterprise and the Excelsior, which is probably the least exciting chase scene ever filmed. Because they're battleships. Battleships chasing each other, not that exciting. They don't move that quickly.
And Scotty put the equivalent of the banana in the tailpipe.
Pretty much. The captain of the Excelsior was saying that when Kirk tries to go to warp, he'll get a surprise. Enterprise goes to warp, no problem. Excelsior tries to go to warp, it stalls. Also, the captain of the Excelsior had this little scepter for some reason.
Well, yeah, he's
had this kind of decorated baton with him. Seemed odd.
Well, yeah, both captains that weren't Kirk in this were very, strange guys that were, by the book, regulation guys. And it's kind of an annoying theme for them to be like, oh, these by the book people are so stupid kind of thing. Which is like the other recurring theme to this.
Yeah.
You're going to grow old and, but you're never too old for stuff.
Right.
And don't be a by the book person.
Because it was the cast and possibly just the director in question, because Shatner directed a couple.
Yeah.
Basically having a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bones having Spock's knowledge, I get. Before Spock died, he basically put his consciousness into Bones' head.
Right. And then didn't tell anyone.
Right. I understand, which is why Bones went crazy.
Right.
I understand Bones having Spock's knowledge, but why does he occasionally have Spock's voice?
I had never noticed that they snuck Nimoy's voice in there a couple times.
I noticed it. I think it was on the bridge when he's at the engineering station. That's when it really finally hit home. That he was using Nimoy's voice. It just doesn't make sense. Also, okay, when Saavik and David find young Spock on Genesis.
Yeah.
And he's about to go into Ponfar, which was a nice callback.
Oh yeah, that gets reused. Like they even used that on the Enterprise series where they have the female Vulcan.
Right, I remember that. That was fun. But Saavik is basically calming him down with this, well, as I call it, hand sex. And I don't mean what you think I mean by that. They kind of caress each other's hands in this odd way. It was very creepy.
No, she did. She gave him a handy. A Vulcan handy.
Yeah. Also, on board the Klingon ship, they were mixing Klingon and English randomly.
Yes, yes, they were.
Seemed odd. I mean, if you're gonna go with English, it's understood. This is just a translation of what they're actually saying.
Right.
Fine, that's a convention, and that's great. Stick with it. There's no need to work the Klingon in occasionally.
Although they did, just so we could see that Kirk, outsmarting them in the
Right,
end,
because he could speak Klingon, and he, shouted into the Klingon communicator and convinced Maltz
Yeah.
that he was Klug. Also, odd to see buttons on the bridge of the Enterprise. I got so used to TNG that seeing actual physical buttons is weird.
Oh yeah, yeah. In the costumes.
No, I mean on the console.
Oh, on the console.
There's a row of buttons instead of the touchscreen that they
Well,
have on
yeah,
TNG.
the Commodore 64 graphics. Intruder alert.
Also, didn't buy Kirk's reaction to David's death. Spoiler alert.
His boy.
He kind of went a bit too Shakespearean with it.
Shatner.
Well, it was Shatner, but he was trying to go Shakespearean with it, and almost play contained rage, which is a level of sudden subtlety that Shatner shouldn't be trying.
They killed my son,
Mm-hmm.
which he gets to milk later
Yes.
in the series.
Like he sits down and kind of falls down out of the chair, and
yes.
he's trying to play it quiet, but it's just not quite working because it's Shatner. He's not that good of an actor.
I tell you though, acting wise, no one beats DeForest Kelly though.
Yeah, this is definitely a shining moment for him. I'm not a big Bones fan, but he really hit it out of the park this time.
Hell of a time to ask. when she's talking about the danger.
Yeah.
What do you choose? Great.
I will say though that destroying the Enterprise for the writers was a ballsy move. As much as I made fun of the whole self-destruct thing.
Well, yeah, the difference with the whole self-destruct thing, the whole self-destruct trope, is that they actually go through with it.
Yeah.
Normally the trope is you set the doomsday clock and then you stop the doomsday clock within
just
3
in the nick
seconds
of time. Yeah.
of it going off. This was the goal was to destroy the ship.
Yeah.
Fuck you, you're not getting Genesis, and I'm going to take out more than half your crew to even the fight out.
Which, I mean, now it's kind of a gag because they've done it like 3 times. But at the time, that was kind of mind-blowing.
It was. That was like one of the only things I remembered about this movie, actually, before watching it again years later, was that, man, they destroyed the fucking Enterprise, like the original Enterprise. But it liberated them because then they were able to get a new one and actually modernize.
Yeah, update the ship quite a bit.
Yeah.
And which, again, as I've said, they've done it, I know, at least twice.
Yeah, then after that, it became like, oh, let's just destroy the fucking Enterprise again.
Yeah.
Like, oh, great.
And speaking of bad effects, you talked about the animatronics.
Oh, yeah.
There's a scene where Spock's face is changing. He's aging rapidly on the planet. With the planet, because the planet's also aging rapidly, which is why it's being destroyed. And it gets very Corman at one point.
Oh, yeah, the butterscotch pudding, almost. Yeah.
You see his bones actually moving under his skin. It's not well done.
I think the only animatronic thing I actually liked on this, the Tribble cameo.
Yes. There were Tribbles in the Cantina.
I completely forgot.
So this all leads to a big fight scene between Kirk and Klug. And they say they missed a perfect opportunity to throw in the classic fight music.
Yeah. That would have been great if someone did like an modern adaptation of that.
Just throw in the old music. They have to have the rights to it.
Of course.
It's a fight. It's an actual fist fight in a Star Trek movie. It needs that music.
You set up the actual, a full orchestra to play it instead. I mean, that would have been neat. Yeah. But really, I mean, a Klingon against a human, just had mano y mano.
Yeah.
Is ridiculous.
Right. Of course. And they didn't have the Batleth at this point, did they? That was a TNG thing, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Because I was kind of surprised he didn't pull one of those out.
It was either that or it may have been a 5 thing.
Okay.
Because
Close
5
enough.
is when they really they really made over the Klingons
Right.
again.
Oh, and I love that Lara Cat was the last surviving Klingon.
Oh, of course. In fact, what would have been great is if they'd ended 4 with, "Hey, can I come out now?"
Yeah.
But they do not.
Yeah.
Because remember, this is the ship they use in the next movie. Because it picks up right up from here. They're still in Vulcan.
Basically, they trick their way. Kirk tricks his way onto the Vertebrae with the one crewman left, Maltz, played by John Larroquette. And Maltz basically says, "Go ahead and kill me." Kirk says, "I'll kill you later." And later, when Maltz expects to be killed, says, "No, I'm not going to kill you. Put him in the brig."
That would have been priceless. Can I come out now? Are you going to kill me now?
Yeah. This, of course, leads to a trip to Vulcan, which got very Shakespearean. But in a good way this time. Because it was Sarek and, I can't remember the actress's name, but it was Dame something, so, she'd been knighted. So that good of an actor. Going back and forth with the Shakespearean, not the actual Shakespearean language, but a very Shakespearean tone. Throw in DeForest Kelley, which was just a nice twist on the whole thing.
It's always good when they go to Vulcan, honestly.
Yeah.
Like any series that I've seen, once they get to Vulcan, even like that, I think they had some great episodes on Enterprise too on there.
This also had the one good effect shot in the film. When the bird of prey lands, that looked amazing.
Yeah, they finally they do get better with the ships here. I mean, they managed to not have many ship shots in the next one for reasons you'll see.
Yeah. And I really liked Spock kind of looking over the crew when he was resurrected.
My favorite part was he's like, "You saved the ship," and then I think Kirk should of course responded, I destroyed it." Yeah, about that ship you saved.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of blew it up.
All right, so on to sequels and remakes.
What will they do for a sequel?
This is 3. There were 6 with the original cast.
Yeah, so we're at the halfway point of the original cast.
And honestly, at this point, by the time we get to Undiscovered Country, I might actually be a Trek fan. Because they're getting better for me.
I have mixed feelings about this one. I mean, Khan, of course, it has just its great confrontation, and this lacked that.
But I think this had a much more. Well, since we're already getting into it, let's just go on to brains.
Yes.
I think the story of this one is just more interesting to me. It doesn't have a lot of the good confrontations and the fights, and it doesn't have that big, standoff in the cloud that Khan has.
Yeah, the nebula.
But I think the story is more interesting, and I think some of the supporting performances are brilliant. I'm very tempted to go 4.5, but I don't think it's quite there. I'm going to round down to 4.
It just lacked dramatic conflict, really. I think there are interesting points to it, though. Like Kirk having his bluff called.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if you think about it, that's pretty interesting. He's a guy who's, bullshitted his way through so much and usually just comes out on top. Whereas this time, he's finally met someone who was his really a much better match than what they treated him in the end.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of the ultimate confrontation just being, I've had enough of you, which, I'm bored with this. Just doesn't leave you with much. So yeah, I'm giving it 3.
All right, and what have we learned?
It's okay to be decay, but don't call him tiny.
And I learned, as I mentioned earlier and gloated about, Star Trek ripped off Star Wars.
Oh yeah, well, they paid homage.
Yeah.
The same aliens.
To paraphrase Jane Silent Bob Strike Back, George Lucas should have seen somebody's ass.
But he was doing this. He was getting money for the special effects.
Well, that's true. Yeah, they worked with ILM, so yeah, I guess that covers it.
It's like when somebody came to him about like Titanic outgrossing his film so much. He's like, "Yes, I know. I did the special effects for it. Weren't they good? And I saw some of that money."
Alright, so until next time when we'll be reviewing The Serpent and the Rainbow, our Russ Craven tribute, go to zombietechnout.com, check out the album art, the episode description, of course the episode itself, which you're already listening to, links to find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and YouTube, links to subscribe via RSS and iTunes. Please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes, we'd really appreciate it. Also, if you enjoy the show, spread the word, give us a little word of mouth. Of course, we appreciate all of the listeners we have, but more would be better. You'll also find the movie list, every movie we've reviewed so far, and every movie we're going to review. I don't remember what it's up to, but we're covered pretty much up through November.
Yeah,
I think we're good till the Thanksgiving break, actually.
Something like that. We've got a lot of movies to cover still.
The request form, if you've got a movie you'd like to hear us review, please leave it on the request form, and of course the recommendations list. I'm kind of surprised that a Star Trek movie other than TMP didn't end up on the rec list. You can also email us, zombieticket@gmail.com, or leave us a voicemail at 414-368-ZTL1, or for the alphanumerically challenged, 414-368-9861. Of course, always remember that you will always be calling from the middle of Milwaukee, and until next time, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you are.
There you are. There you are. I feel like when we do a Christopher Lloyd movie, we should really nail that, you know?
My friends, I can't ask you to go any further.
Just jumping back in for a minute to bring up something that I forgot to mention during the episode. For those of you who like Star Trek TOS and kind of want to see it continued, there are 2 web series out there. Star Trek Continues and what was the other one? Phase 2?
Yes.
Star Trek Phase 2. Both continue with the original crew, Kirk, Spock, Bones, all of them. I've seen a bit of Continues. They really go to pains to match the tone and the feel of the original, for better and worse. It's kind of amazing how close they get. Also, Grant Imahara from Mythbusters plays Sulu. They don't release that often. They only put out an episode like twice a year, but it's definitely worth it. Haven't seen Phase 2. I'm going to have to check that out soon.
The stills looked pretty good, and then when I started playing one, it had the 1960s NBC, in color thing.
Oh, that's a nice touch. But wasn't it on CBS?
No,
it was on NBC originally. Okay, because CBS owns it now, of course.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
Anyway,
Desilu.
Anyway, just wanted to plug those 2 for the Star Trek fans out there. Talk to you next week.
His mind's a void. It seems like I got all his fuck me.
Thank you.